In 1953, Alan Dulles, then director of the USA Central Intelligence Agency, named Dr. Sidney Gottlieb to direct the CIA's MK-Ultra program, which included experiments conducted by psychiatrists to create amnesia, new dissociated identities, new memories, and responses to hypnotic access codes. In 1972, then CIA Director Richard Helms and Gottlieb ordered the destruction of all MK-Ultra records. However, a clerical error spared 7 boxes containing 1,738 documents, over 17,000 pages. This archive was declassified through a Freedom of Information Act requested in 1977, though the names of most people, universities, and hospitals were redacted. The CIA assigned each document a number preceded by MORI for Management of Officially Released Information. The CIA's automated electronic system at the time of document release, the United States Senate then held a hearing exposing the abuses of MK-Ultra entitled Project MK-Ultra, the CIA's program of research into behavioral modification. Let me read from a 1952 CIA document pertaining to a sub-program of MK-Ultra called Project Artichoke. Quote, "Can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against fundamental laws of nature such as self-preservation? Some of America's highest profile assassins, including the likes of John Lennon's killer, Mark David Chapman, and Robert Kennedy's assassin, Sirhan Sirhan, claimed they were more or less CIA-programmed killers hypnotized by MK-Ultra. Now, the media portrayed them as crazed lone gunmen, so naturally the public paid little attention to their claims. Is it possible, however, these supposed crazed gunmen were telling the truth? If the CIA and other intelligence groups or other shadowy agencies are training assassins, what else can they do? Coming up in hours 1 and 2, one such lifelong victim of MK-Ultra, Ron Allen, shares his story. He'll be joined by his editor, Elana Freeland. Coming up in the second half, the late comedian Bill Hicks used to say, watching television is like taking black spray paint to your third eye. Now, I've never really understood what that means exactly. I'm hoping to get some clarity on that during the second half of tonight's program. Truth Seeker is a Christian hip-hop artist who's been described as a mystic. He makes his second appearance on Coast tonight to discuss supernatural encounters in the spiritual realm, as well as techniques to open the third eye or pineal gland. The third eye is how we are reportedly able to see into the spirit realm and peer beyond the veil of reality as we know it. According to Truth Seeker, the third eye isn't closed, nor has it ever been opened. We've simply forgot how to use it. These are practices that help us to stimulate our third eye. He says there are practices, rather, that help us to stimulate our third eye and, in a sense, remember how to see again. Welcome to the Audio Imaginarium. Come on in, weary traveler. Hang your cloak on a peg, grab a stool, and come warm yourself by the fire. There are stories to be told, and you are among friends. I'm Richard Serrett, and this is Coast to Coast AM. Why don't you stay a while? Ron Allen has been an MK-Ultra experimental subject since birth, first by early CIA and U.S. Army Navy doctors, later joined by the FBI, COINTELPRO perpetrators, and their gang-stalking minions. Ron and his older brother, Gordon, were chosen from 4 brothers as early MK-Ultra subjects. Ron is now in his late 60s and self-observing his daily actions, reactions, and responses as if he were studying an actor in a play. Ron challenges preconceived ideas of slavery and what he once called his normal life. He tells his story in his new book, 21st Century MK-Ultra Slave, A Vintage Transhuman Tale. Elana Freeland is a writer, ghostwriter, teacher, and lecturer who researches and writes on deep state issues like geoengineering, MK-Ultra, ritual abuse, targeting, and invasive electromagnetic weapons. She's best known for her geoengineering trilogy, Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth, Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown, and her latest, Geoengineered Transhumanism, How the Environment Has Been Weaponized by Chemicals, Electromagnetism, and Nanotechnology for Synthetic Biology. Elana came of age in the eye of the 60s maelstrom. Her four-book series, Sub Rosa America, A Deep State History, exposes the hidden history of America since President John F. Kennedy's televised assassination. Her second major during her undergraduate days was biology, and later she earned a Master's of Arts degree from St. John's College in Santa Fe, New Mexico, concentrating on historiography, and her thesis was awarded honors. Elana is the editor of 21st Century MK Ultra Slave. Ron Allen, Elana Freeland, welcome to Coast. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for the invite, Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Always good to be with you.
Likewise. Ron, let me start with you. There's a photograph of you on the front cover. You look to be about maybe 5 or 6. It seems to be from the 50s, maybe the early 60s. You're wearing a cowboy hat. There's a man standing behind you in a business suit. His left arm is kind of lightly touching your elbow. It looks to be kind of a stereotypical, some might say idyllic 1950s American childhood, but not so, correct?
Right. That photograph is me at age 5. The artist that did the cover added the gentleman behind me as he looks rather like a spook, like a agent, and he's got his hand around me like he's taking control.
So, Ron, if you could just give us a quick overview of your earliest memories, what it was like growing up, not what you later sort of recovered as your memories, but what your childhood was like. Tell me about your family, where you grew up.
Oh, in the early 60s, or I should say 50s, we were on the East Coast. My father was in the Navy until I was 10 years old, and he was a pilot, so we had blimps, and his main airplane was the Super Constellation. He was a radar onboard radar innovator for Lockheed Martin and for the Navy, and GE was the radar people. And so I grew up, that primarily they were used, we were told, for anti-submarine activity. So we always lived by the coast. And I went to 4 different states on the East Coast, and then my father outed when we were 10, when I was 10, and we moved to the West Coast, where he then got hooked up with Grumman and started with the airplane that the wings fold up for doing aircraft work and aircraft carrier work, and had another 16 years with them. So I was involved with the Navy, going out to the air strip all the time, as well as the infirmary, the doctors, and
outwardly, Ron, and to an outsider, would they have looked at your family and say just a normal, loving family?
Certainly from the outside. We were playing stickball and riding bicycles and everything, living off the base and in, bedroom communities, suburbia. So, yeah, right. It certainly looked that way.
Later, we'll get into the recovered memories and what you discovered was really going on, from your earliest moments, from the moment you were born, actually. But before that, Elana, there may be some people listening, who have heard, the term MK Ultra. They may even know that the Nazis were using trauma and drugs in the 30s and the 40s to fracture an individual's psyche and brainwash them and mind control and so forth. And then some of those Nazis were exfiltrated into the United States under Operation Paperclip, and then the OSS, later the CIA, sort of further developed these techniques. But just kind of fill in the blanks and give us a real quick maybe update on what happened to the technology, the techniques of mind control, let's say from the Cold War up until now.
Yeah, it's really easy to think that that's all in the wicked Nazi past, the Cold War and Operation Paperclip and the records that came over from the camps with the Nazis that were, and their records were scrubbed and they were given new American last names, and they were moved to our bases and our hospitals and our universities and our communities. It's just unbelievable that happened. And, of course, it was post-World War II, and America, as everybody probably knows from their history book, entered the European War in 1941 and remained until 45, and the bombs that were detonated in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So, it was like everybody was like, whew, the war is over, all right. And now, we've got this wonderful economy. We're going to bring it all back. And, and all that starvation we've been through and the soup lines and the things that we had to go through, that's all over. Everything's good. We won the war. And, from all these years, Richard, of my research into the history of America since John Kennedy's assassination and just before, from World War II at the very end, I now see that really, in my opinion, the Third Reich was brought here to the land of resources, and we just handed them carte blanche. And now what we're seeing is an MK Ultra that has graduated into electromagnetic directed energy weapons that remotely influence brains, behavior, feelings, thoughts, and people are thinking it's, that's 5G. And that has to do with some of the satellites up in the sky, and that has to do with HARP up there in Alaska and the geoengineering. Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. It is not over yet. In fact, it has come of age in America, this MK Ultra electromagnetic kind of mind control, which can do the same remotely. I mean, it was the way it was when Ron was being sacrificed to the program, was that they would have to traumatize you, the child. They would give them drugs. They would hypnotize them. And that was a pretty hands-on procedure at that point in a clinical setting or a hospital setting. But what it has become now is it has become remote. And all they need is a 4G plus system or a 5G or a 6G system. So, we're in a way we're still fighting that war, is how I feel, because I have dedicated thousands of hours to studying this stuff to figure out how this is going to overtake most Americans, not just this generation, not just the generations of yesteryear, the future generations. And we really need to look at this technology And and I'm so happy Ron has come forward with his story, because he is still being used by these, I guess I have to call them people.
I've talked to, over 22 years, I guess, in this field, I've talked to dozens and dozens of targeted individuals. And, they talk about being, as you say, victims of remote electronic torture. They talk about gang stalking. They talk about voice to skull or V2K technology, sleep disruption, microwave weapons. But Ron, your story of trauma and abuse is, it's a whole other level. It really almost, it's going to be very, very difficult for people to comprehend or maybe to even believe, because it involves, as we'll discover, a cloning program and even a type of involuntary astral projection. We've got about 3.5 minutes here before the break, so let's start to get into it now, and then we'll pick it up on the other side. Can you, as best you can, explain what has been happening to you?
Yeah, I go through a lot of, every time I go to sleep, I'm taken. My dreams, I used to have occasional dreams. Now it's pretty much constant through the night. I wake up often, and, I'll wake up with an erection. I have to do this counting thing that I do to quiet it down, because I just don't want that in the air. I had and I listen to the people talking that I can hear, and I had one woman said, the dreams are not targeted individual work. In other words, she was from the people that were the perpetrators of the targeted individual, and she was not connected to the dream cycle that I go through. So it's there's two different things that I'm dealing with, both the residual MK Ultra that they've kept me plugged into, and pretty much the last 10 years it's been constant, and also the targeted individual, which is the gang stalking and the people huddling, looking, talking, signals, and all that other stuff.
So when you're falling asleep, it sounds like, and I'm using my own terminology here, so you correct me if I'm missing the mark, but it sounds like you're saying that they're hijacking your dream.
Right.
And they are
my consciousness. These are synthetic dreams that I'm having. They've changed. It used to be kind of, I don't know, fuzzy, the dream, and now they're vivid.
When you say synthetic dreams, you mean they've created a dream and implanted it into your consciousness or your
and
unconscious state?
Subconscious fills in details. They're either looking for something, they're exercising me, they're training me. There's a movie called Inception where they do this, and it's similar to that. They have an architect. They put people under. With me, they do it with frequencies. In that movie, they did it with a drug, and it's the same thing. They've got an architect that's setting up the landscape, and then I put in the movie they had a safe that they wanted to know what the person was hiding, so they provided a safe so that they could see what the person would put into it, and it's that sort of thing.
All right, we'll take a quick time out. Ron Allen is the author of 21st Century MK Ultra Slave. Elana Freeland is editor. Back with more of our conversation on MK Ultra right here on Coast to Coast AM.
Yeah, I consider it to be thieving of my astral body. Donald Marshall wrote a book, and he talked about the clones that they do in Hollywood. And it's a big activity, and they use them for, they have shows where they do sex with them, and they do gladiator things with them and that sort of thing. Well, that book came in when we were in the process of writing my book, and what tie-in I found was in their taking my astral, it happens right as I'm going into sleep, and what Donald Marshall calls REM sleep, because it's right at that point where you're tilting in and it gets taken out. People that are, you've heard it mentioned, somebody's on an operating bed and they say that they were able to see their body. They'll be above looking down on their body. That's the astral projection of their astral body, and that's what's going on there. And
let me get to. Sorry. Go ahead, Ron. Yeah, continue.
With me, what they're doing is putting me through all these situations. I think they're training me and training other people. There's a thing that the Pentagon has going called the Sentient World Simulator. And you've heard them talk about downloading a brain by the year 2030. And that's what they're doing. They're filling these, it's going to be an avatar situation of the whole world. You know, they're doing all this face recognition and information gathering everywhere. Surveillance is everywhere. And that's what they're doing. They're uploading this data into that SWS.
Now we're talking about what? We're talking about hijacking someone's consciousness while they sleep? And
well, yeah, but
how does that happen?
Among those 149 sub-projects of MKUltra, the original one, back when they were using hypnosis and drugs and trauma, remember, there was an operation called Operation Often. And what that one was doing whatever it took to get the person very close to death so that they could learn basically about the other side, basically about what lies beyond death. And that included getting people to be psychic in certain ways. And this astral body thing, now I always refer to Rudolf Steiner for the definition of the astral body. Americans, you know, we're not really taught much about this stuff here, and a lot of people think that the word occult simply means it's evil, but that's not so. There's very deep concepts that have been in all the great religions of the world for many, many thousands of years, and one of them is the astral body. So imagine that your physical body has not only an etheric body or an ether body, which is your energy body, your health body that is basically pretty much the same shape as your physical body. And then you have this astral body that we're told looks like a luminous egg around your physical body, going up as far as 3 or 4 feet above you. So the astral body is the one that Rudolf Steiner says holds our consciousness. And so when we're learning about life and we're struggling with things and trying to figure stuff out, it is really the astral body that is the one that grows and helps us to evolve as higher and higher human beings. So the fact when Ron gave me as a manuscript, and I started reading it. I have heard about, certainly, astral projection, and I've known a couple of shamans who are able to astral project all the way up into the stars, but I didn't think that we had the machinery yet, the technology, that could actually remove the astral body against our will. And I don't know. I think I was must have been asleep in that way, because of course they were heading toward that back in the 50s. So when he described what was going on, when he'd go into sleep paralysis, and he'd, for all intents and purposes, be knocked out, and then there would be this virtual sex show going on somewhere.
I don't want to get too graphic about that.
I'm not going to. That people would dial into. It seemed to be that it was like a club or something. They were members, and I was like, well, okay, they're taking his astral out, and there's this sex show. Well, where is that going on? Is that just all virtual, or is there something physical going on? And so. And that's when we came across Donald Marshall's book on human cloning. And Donald Marshall posits that there are cloning centers all over the United States, and I'm sure in other countries, where the elites in particular pay big money to come in and demand that certain clones be activated, maybe actresses, actors, children, any type of clone, because there is a type of cloning that this very much is like. And he says, I was just looking at it, he says there are two kinds of cloning. There's the replication cloning and the duplication cloning. The replication cloning is the one we all know about, where you basically take the DNA, the nucleus, from a donor egg and replace it with new DNA from the person to be cloned. After a few days, the resulting embryo can be implanted for pregnancy, and then the newborn starts life off as a genetic copy of the original, and it goes through all the phases like a baby. But no, there's another type of cloning, says Donald Marshall, and that's the duplication. And that is quite different and happens super fast. Duplication cloning is the second hidden method and type of cloning, where the DNA from the person is grown in a big, thick tank full of saline water. It involves a method of regenerative technology where the cells are agitated, and over the course of 5 months, a fully formed duplicate clone body of an original is developed. They have improved this recently, since 2000, where they just need a little bit of blood from the original that they then agitate. And when he says agitate, I think electromagnetism. They agitate the blood cells over and over through regenerative technology until a fully formed duplicate clone body of an original is produced. So that kind, the duplication kind, you can make it any age you want. So, Donald Marshall claims that he's been used at the cloning center since he was 5 years old. So they have a 5-year-old for the pedophiles. They have now a 30-year-old for so-and-so and a 20-year-old. So this idea that Ron's astral body was being removed electromagnetically with a frequency and zoomed over to his clone, which had his genetic makeup. And as soon, the clone apparently, according to Marshall, is just sitting there like a rag doll, completely inactive, has no consciousness whatsoever.
Until it's reanimated with Ron's astral body or whatever other
They bring
MK
his
Ultra
consciousness in. The clone now, just imagine this, the clone for a while Ron's in REM sleep thousands of miles away, the clone has Ron's consciousness and has access to his consciousness. All that subconscious material that he's talking about in his engineered dreams, That's in the clone too. So Ron's sort of picking that stuff up of whatever's coming through, and then they wipe his memory. It appears because he has no real memory of what happens with just fragments, and then boom, he's back in his body, and he goes through a few sleep cycles a night with that.
Well, and again, I don't want to get into, what actually, Ron is doing or Ron's clone is doing to entertain whoever's watching this and however. I mean, presumably they could take someone's consciousness, involuntarily astral projected into a clone, and that clone could be an assassin. It could be a super spy of some sort. Why do they need to astral project? Why don't they just, like I'm thinking of the Manchurian Candidate, right? Richard Condon's book. Why don't they just actually take that person, however they, create this dissociative disorder, fracture the psyche, and use that person, with a trigger word and have them then carry on whatever evil deeds that they want them to do? Why do they need to go to the trouble of creating a clone?
I think they do that, what you're saying. They're still using that old type, but I think they want to be as gods on this planet. And they want to run, when I use the term in the geoengineering books, full spectrum dominance, I'm not just talking about planetary weather control. I'm talking about full spectrum dominance over the entire electromagnetic spectrum. So they want to control everything that has to do with us. And this idea of thumbing their nose at the divine world is how I put it, by being able to run us spiritually as well as just behaviorally. Oh, yeah, they want the full banana there. They want the whole thing. And that's what I think they're doing slowly over time. Now, you have seen those people standing up at a podium talking or on a news show, newscasting, and suddenly they just drop over. This was before the vax, before all of this death going on now. It's been going on quite a while. Was that someone, did the original wake up from REM sleep and now the clone went boom? I mean, it's just a thought. We know about doubles, right? We know about doubles.
Sure.
But is it possible that some of these are actually clones? And are they REM clones? I'm sure there are other types of clones. That's the only one I know something about now that I read Donald Marshall's book.
Ron, again, we're heading into the top of the hour here, but I just spend a couple minutes here before we break and tell me how you were able to remember what happened to you very early on. I mean, because this control started, I think, literally the moment you were born, right?
Yes, it did. I was talking with my uncle after my parents died in a suspicious car wreck in 1990. I was talking with my mother's older brother, and he told me that my first 10 days, my mother had given me to the hospital, that she wanted a girl, and she was just gave me away, didn't even see me. And that gave me pause. I didn't know what to do with that information, but off I went, and I was in the aerospace industry and manufacturing world. And around the time that George W. Bush and Al Gore had their election, I became upset about the electoral system in the United States, and I packed up my shop and I moved down to Mexico first and then off to Costa Rica. In 2005, I had a dream, and I call it a memory dream, where I saw a man, a doctor, at a 1950s type laboratory panel, and he said, "Oh no, he's woken up," and he's looking right at me, and I could tell that I was small by the size that he was looking at. And it was a laboratory where he was working at a panel. I after that I had a regression therapy done, and I was curious about what happened, my first 10 days. And so that was my intention. And I was having more memories come rushing up, and I saw myself as a baby. And I was naked, laying on a metal, I don't know if it was a gurney or tray or what it was, but I was shivering. And I noticed after a while that it was rhythmic and that I wasn't really shivering because I was cold, but that it was electronic induced. It was, I was being shocked. And I know I've seen black and white videos of MK Ultra, and that's one of the things they did to babies. These doctors that had them as their subjects. And what I was doing was I was looking for a nurse that took care of me during those first 10 days on the internet. The dream was in 2005. And in 2010, I found the hospital, Valley Forge Army Hospital, and I found not the nurse, they were only administrative that I had found, and I was actually looking for a nurse's aide, but I found the doctor, and it was the doctor from the dream. He was older, 50 years older, but that was him. And in my research of this doctor, I found out that, he went on to be a quite a famous individual, and has a foundation, and suicide was his area of expertise. In digging a little bit deeper, I found that he had a lot of CIA associations. He had the guy that was the working with the Manchurian Candidate was one of his associates. And
Gottlieb.
Oh yes, Gottlieb. Yes, I mentioned Gottlieb earlier. Elana, any way of knowing how widespread this is, and whether it's primarily the children of Navy personnel? I mean, who is likely to be an MK Ultra slave, and how widespread is it?
Well, it certainly started with, and I always name the Navy first, because not that the other armed forces are not engaged in this as well, but the Navy is the oldest branch of the military in the United States. And yes, there are, during the Cold War, it was a matter of getting your officers, primarily officers, to sacrifice one of their children, minimum, for the sake of the Cold War, for the sake of, fighting the Russians or whatever the narrative of the day was. And many people gave their children up, and in Ron's case, it was him and his brother Gordon. And I would say that the parents may have felt pressure, certainly guilt. I would say some of Ron's descriptions of his mother, obviously she felt guilt over what she had agreed to. And I've known other MK Ultras who have the same thing in their families. So it's very common. In fact, it's the first question I ask any MK Ultra who starts telling me their story is, do you have anyone in the military? So then there's the CIA Ron, and the CIA is practically, it's filled with military officers. I mean, to me, there's no real difference between the U.S. Navy and the CIA, truthfully. So what's going on now? They've moved from that, but there's still that pressure. I would think it has gone to CEOs. It has gone to, getting blackmail, certainly pedophile photograph blackmail is how this world seems to be run. Using children. What can I say? It's still the same old thing of people not really. I don't know what's with people, not really taking care of their children, because it's common. I mean, certainly it makes sense, doesn't it, that if you're going to do mind control, you need them young. You can do a Manchurian candidate in a teenager with Prozac or Zoloft or something. You can pull that off for a one function kind of thing. That's what I call it. Because remember, Richard, I have decided, because there are so many MK Ultra females who have written their stories and have told their stories, which are horrendous, with lots of detail, lots of memories pouring forth. But where are the men? Where are the male MK Ultras? There are thousands and thousands of those. Why are they not coming forward? Well, I've decided it's because the women are changed. The little girls are programmed to be relational, to bring down the defenses of a pedophile man, and then maybe assassinate him or whatever, do drug muling, etc. But it's always about their looks. It's always about their relational programming. Whereas the males, it seems to me, and Ron does fit this profile, they are programmed to be functionaries, and therefore they. Billy Hayes was the one I knew best, the male MK Ultra. And Billy, you would just ask him, he's the harp man, you would ask him a question about electromagnetics, and he would just recite chapter and verse on whatever it was in his programming. There was no one better for me in writing the second book I wrote. So this functionary thing, it seems to me that that's why the men don't write, is they've got the memories, but maybe they're buried, and they're going to need some coaxing to bring them out.
When you say functionaries, Elana, can you just explain what you mean by a functionary?
Functionary would be someone who knows how to operate electromagnetic equipment, for example, directed energy weapons, the secret space program. They would be in a classified program, and they would understand how to do this and how to. But
they may not have a waking memory of doing that?
No, it would all be programmed into the subconscious, and then all you'd need would be a trigger word to bring it out. And,
right. Let's play some solitaire.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not a biologist, and I don't pretend to be really knowledgeable in this, but it seems to me that the male testosterone has, we have the word testimony and testify. These are all from testicles. These are all from, the male. This idea of the words being all bound up in the testosterone cycling. There's something about that. I'm no expert, but somebody needs to research that who really knows their way around biological things like that. So I want more men to come forward, which is one of the reasons that when Ron approached me, I was thrilled to help him, because we need the men out there too, but there are so many men who are just buried. It's like the guys who came home from Vietnam. They were just buried in PTSD, and we never got to hear their stories. Most of them. Some of them did talk.
Right.
So,
Ron, your book is dedicated to your brother Gordon. What happened to him?
Gordon committed suicide. he was 26 at the time, and I was living with him for 2 months. I'd been living with him. I left San Diego because he invited me up to San Francisco in 1974 to live with him and his girlfriend there. And he, we worked together and got to know his friends and that sort of thing. But he was distant and he was trying to pull it together. But he would cry through dinner and there was something really bothering him that he couldn't talk about. And one weekend, him and his friends went camping and it happened at that point.
I'm so sorry. Was he also in the program? In other words, was he sacrificed to the program by your parents?
Yeah. He through my life, he was always in institutions, nut houses or, being thrown in jail for drunkenness or something. But he was emotionally had problems, and I heard him say at one point when he was quite upset with my mother, and I was, 13 or something, and he said, how could you let them do that to me? I know that I am one of them, and I know that Ron is too. And I didn't know what he meant at that time. But as soon as he died, I became psychic, and I started going through a lot of experiences. And I believe that that is what he was going through, only he wasn't able to get it out because it's pretty outlandish what they put us through. Yeah. And most people don't want to hear it, don't know about it, can't relate.
Yep.
Ron, we just have about 3 minutes here before the break at the bottom of the hour. We'll open up the phone lines as well at the bottom of the hour and take questions and comments. But I'm anticipating, there may be someone out there who will call in and say, how do we know any of this is true? How do we know, Ron, this isn't a fever dream of someone? You're either making it up or you're delusional. What do you say to those people?
There's plenty of other things that people are coming to terms with right now, and it's going to be pretty difficult for people to believe that they understand everything that's going on the planet. There's a lot of revealing that's going on, and we're finding out a lot about the situation that we are in. And this is another portion of that big drive of these people that are playing God with technology. And that's where we are. And this is part of that.
Elana, anything to add for people who might say this just stretches all credulity?
Well, in America, my experience has been that people like their comfort zone and their convenience zone, and they need to do more. And I think that's been the good thing that has come out of the last 2.5 years, is that just letting somebody else deal with it and hoping that the angel of death will pass over you and you'll be fine is probably not going to work anymore. And we're going to have to look at the dark side of America if we expect to be able to save it.
Just very quickly, I've got about a minute here. I mean, is what happened to Ron, is that what's in store for most of us, all of us?
Well, we haven't even touched on that last point of this is a business model. I mean, I'm incensed over that. This is a business model, what happened to him, and what he is still being forced to do on a daily level. It's unbelievable that we have let things go this far.
A business model. So in other words, this has gone from the CIA, from the Navy,
to
government into the private sector.
Yeah, it's the public. That's the what do they call it now? The public-private partnership. What a term! Yeah, they're making a lot of money. They're making a lot of money over how many slaves? How many are out there?
All right, we'll step away, come back, and as I say, we're going to open up the phone lines, take questions and comments for Ron Allen, 21st Century MK Ultra slave, and Elana Freeland, editor. Back with how can you protect yourself? Can you protect yourself?
Prayer, belief in the hereafter and ascended masters. There's, like I said, they are playing God with their technology. And as far as the TIs, knowing what to do about giving a card and saying it with a sneer and things like that, this V2K, where they're putting voices in people's heads, they're also listening.
And then the street theater. Do you also get street theater, Ron, happening where people will...
Upon occasion. Yeah. Sometimes it's worse than other times, but, that's basically I'm in an area where I don't get out a lot, and it's the midnight, dream scenario.
But Ron, they followed you all the way to my place when we were working on the book, and would do something to your camper.
Correct. Yeah.
To just let you know that they're here. I mean.
Yeah, and when we've gone out to eat, there's been people there that are giving me dirty looks like they're part of it. Yeah, I know.
And if they are focusing on certain lineages of bloodlines through the ages.
All right. Ron, Elana, either of you want to handle that one?
I'll touch on the blood lineage and then let Elana have the wired aspect. My lineage is through the Celtic, Scots-Irish, and there's a lot of psychic abilities that get passed down through that, and I do feel that is or something that they're tracking, and I do feel like this tracking has been going on with me for a while and others.
All right, and Elana, do you want to talk about the effect of, or whether there's a connection between ADHD and MK Ultra?
Well, that's really interesting. The ADHD, which also has to do with other childhood assaults. I have to call them assaults. So the electromagnetic part is hugely, hugely important. Ron, in his book, talks about how right after his parents' death, he was suddenly on an electromagnetic leash, and that is real. It isn't something where you're sort of making up an image in order to explain various phenomena happening because of the electromagnetics, and maybe in your life. But that electromagnetic leash is something that, when that's on, you don't really control your thoughts and really have control over your life. So the ADHD and autism are the two I would name as sheer assaults on people when they're children in preparation for utilizing them for other things later.
And Elana, if you want to respond quickly, and we may have time for another call, I'm not sure, but your thoughts on what Richard is saying.
Yeah, they do come and go, and the theater is going on, and it's constant. Um, it's widespread. It's more widespread than one would hope or imagine, but that's the targeted individual aspect.
So Richard is a targeted individual. Is that a part different from being an MK Ultra slave?
Yes, I was going to say that, but it's kind of a long subject.
Yeah.
The MK Ultra is a separate thing, but Ron and I have talked about that too. Does he have alters, for example? Has his personality been split through trauma, and does he have a memory of those? And he doesn't have nearly the memory that, for example, Elisa E. has, who has just come out with her second edition of her book, Our Life Beyond MK Ultra, Then and Now. Not nearly. In that book, she's writing from the alter's point of view, and has, then there's the whole argument over what do you do with alters? Do you get to know them, or do you try to reintegrate them, or what do you do with them? That's a separate thing from the targeting, and though targeting often accompanies MK Ultras, I think that's the confusion.
Quick question, and it just occurred to me. Otherwise, I would have asked it sooner, and we don't have much time. And I'm not trying to be trite here. Is it or flippant? I think is I'm not trying to be flippant. Is it possible that they already have a clone of me, for example, all ready to go at a deep underground military base, and they are just waiting for an opportunity to hijack my consciousness?
I don't know, Richard.
I wouldn't know how to answer that.
What, Ron?
I wouldn't know how to answer that. How they pick their targets, yeah. I'm not sure. But I do have a sense that there is a hidden life that it's like when you wake up and you try to remember your dream. I have something that keeps, I get a little fragment of it, and then I'll get another fragment of it, but I can't put them together. There is something that is like parallel life that I'm living, and it's exhibited through some of these dreams where I wake up and we're putting a warm woman into a box. And, I have dreams where I've got rooms full of people that are motionless with their hands in their laps and their eyes are open, but they're sitting in upright chairs and they don't move an inch. And, what all these things are, there's technology and, the astral body, there's all, and they've got access to that because they're through their technology, and this is
all right.
ahead of us.
Just enough time to let people know, how can we get a copy of 21st Century MK Ultra Slave?
It's in Amazon books. It was released there.
All right, Amazon, 21st Century MK Ultra Slave, A Vintage Transhuman Tale by Ron Allen, editor's note by Elana Freeland. Ron and Elana, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Richard. Thank you so much for having us.
All right, when we come back, Christian mystic, hip-hop artist, truth seeker on The Third Eye, right here on Coast to Coast AM.